Hey guys, Lindsay here and welcome back for this month's tutorial video. In last month's video, I did a mega review of my right hand technique and style. And in that video, I talked a lot about the Giuliani exercises, which are these great series of right hand exercises where the left hand is really simple. You're playing just a C and a G7 chord back and forth and doing all these different patterns in the right hand, some 3-finger, some 4-finger, that are really great for working on your independence and your articulation, your speed, all the stuff that you want to have if you want to have a really well-defined right hand. And while they're great exercises, they're great, it's like doing your reps, they're not necessarily the most musical or the most obviously adaptable into vocal accompaniment or a chord melody piece. So I thought it would be a fun challenge to take a few of those and turn them into little etudes that are a little bit more musical to play, that have more going on in the left hand, a little bit more musical flow, a little bit of a hint of a melody, or just sort of a cool ostinato feel, and share this with you guys. So I hope that these will be helpful for you. If you've already done those Giuliani exercises and you're familiar, I think these will be a nice development on those, and hopefully they'll give you something more to play to keep working on your right hand. So I took exercises number 2, 30, and 83, and I turned them into distinct little pieces, and so I'll go through and I'll play each one sort of as I mean it to be performed, and then we'll slow it down and talk about the challenges of each piece individually, and we'll go from there. So let's just dive right in. Oh, and one more thing, there are tabs available for all these pieces. If you're a Patreon supporter, you'll already have access to these, or you can buy them individually in my Patreon shop. So just go to patreon.com/LindsayStraw and get those. And now we can get started. All right, so our first etude is going to be based on Giuliani exercise number 2, which is a nice simple triplet exercise using just the 3 fingers. Nice and simple, the trebles stay the same while the bass is the one where you really get the nice motion. And so with my etude, I kept a similar sort of feel. The trebles stay pretty static through a lot of the chords, even as the chord changes move, while it's the bass that really has the interesting sort of melodic feel. So I'll go ahead and play this one all the way through once, as I sort of intend it to be played, and then we'll break it down piece by piece. So to slow down and get into the details on Giuliani Inspire number 2, so like the exercise, I'm starting with a C chord, but I'm going to add in this high G. And I'm going to keep these 2 notes held down, the index on the C and the pinky on the G, through the first 6 measures. So you don't have to move those at all for those first 3 chords. Again, it's just 3 fingers, thumb, index, and middle, nice and steady. So nice and slow on this one. I'm not doing the full, either this A minor or this A minor. I'm just keeping, once again, keeping those 2 notes the same and just turning it into the A minor by adding in the bass, and we're going to move the middle around between the A and the E. So that'll make sure it's very clearly an A minor chord. And now going to that G, we're going to lift off the index finger and open up the B string. Now we're going to the D minor, and if you normally play it like this with those 3 fingers, I would suggest playing it like this with these 3, with your middle and your pinky and your index, because we're going to use the ring finger on the F there. Now we're going to the full regular A minor. Back to D forward. All right, so our next etude is going to be based on Giuliani exercise number 30, which, although that sounds fairly early in the whole series, is actually one of the more complex 16th triplet note patterns, and it sounds like this. Not a pattern that's super easy to incorporate a melody into, you know, a la Travis picking or something like that, but it is one of those patterns that I feel like just sounds so awesomely guitar-y. Like, it's guitar and piano really can kind of create these textures that are really nice, and this is such a typical kind of pattern along those lines. So while the right hand is fairly complex and involved, I decided to keep the left hand a little bit more simple, though not boring, I don't think, because even though I'm using just 2 and 3 finger chords, I'm taking advantage of those nice open strings to create some nice sus chords and just create some cool drones. And so I think this is a really fun pattern to play. This is actually something that I sort of stole from a demo video that I did ages ago, because I love these patterns, and back when I was doing more demos on a regular basis and I was just getting tired of playing the same stuff over and over again, I'd just pick a pattern that I liked and try to find some cool stuff to do with it. And this was actually one of those things that I did at some point in the past. So we'll dive into this one and we'll play it through once as I kind of intend it to be played. Like I said with this one, because the picking pattern is more complex, I'm really keeping the left hand a little bit simpler. We're just taking these 2 finger chords and sliding them up and down and creating this sort of nice ostinato, nebulous, sustainy, droney chord feel throughout this whole little tune. So for the most part, the high E and B strings are going to stay open as much as possible, so make sure you're not dampening those strings at all. You're giving them a lot of nice clearance because you want to keep that drone effect going throughout the chord changes. And while sometimes the open strings kind of create some chords that are a little bit more complex than flat wants to let me notate. So this D chord is obviously not just a simple D chord. We've got the G and the B and the E, so it's more of a D, add 9, add 4, etc. But for the purpose of sort of just communicating what the chord movement is, we're going E minor to D to C major 7 to B7. So we're going to start off up here on the 7 and the 5 on the 4th and 5th string, and leave everything else open. We're going to slide that pattern down for the D. Slide that down again to the 3rd fret. Comes to C major 7. And for this B7, we're doing 2, 1, 2, open, open. So you might be familiar with this B7 chord. We're just going to leave off that F sharp for now. Then we're going to go back to that E minor. We're going to add in the high B up there. And once again, as we slide that chord down to the D, we're going to slide the high note down as well and leave it on the A, we're going to leave it on the A up there on the E string. Slide that whole chord down. Now we're going to go into that full B7. Now here we've got a little melodic transition to get us into the next section. And opening on the open G string to give us just a second to get up here to this A minor, which is more of an A minor add 9, basically. And that same shape slides down into this G shape. So normally you might know this G shape, 5, 4, 3 on the G or the D, G, and B strings. But we're not gonna have the B string fretted. We're just gonna have open, 5, 4, open, open. So it's sort of an E minor chord also, but we're gonna call it a G for right now, just to kind of keep it in the structure of the A minor sort of line at the moment. So once again. Now we're going to take into this D chord, which we've got the D triad up here, 5, 4, 3, D, F sharp, A, and then open B, open E. Back to that A minor, back to the G, back to the D. Rather than doing that for another measure, we're going to do this sort of A minor 9 over C chord, question mark. Back to the D. Then we're going to take this into a B flat 6. And that chord is 1, 3, open, 3, open. To the A7. Take us back into the E minor, so we're basically just going to repeat that middle section again. So our last etude is going to be based on exercise number 83, which is a pretty straightforward 16th note pattern that just incorporates some simultaneous notes, and it sounds like this. Not super crazy sounding, and certainly simpler than the last one in terms of the right hand, but I made up for it by making the left hand unintentionally more difficult by incorporating a lot more bar chords than even I normally play. So this is probably the most challenging one for me. I'd be curious to hear your guys' feedback on this, but in order to really get more melodic sort of structure to it, I had to go up the neck a lot more and incorporate those bar chords. So I'll go ahead and play it so you can hear what it sounds like. So with this one, I haven't indicated all of the right hand fingerings because it's fairly straightforward. Just assign your thumb to the low E, A, and D strings, your index to the G string, your middle to the B string, and your ring finger to the high E, and you'll be good to go. We're going to play around with the tonality of this one a little bit. We're going to be both in A minor or A natural minor or Aeolian minor, as well as A Dorian minor. So we're going to have both F natural and F sharp, and like I said, lots of bar chords. So that's definitely the trickier part of this one. None of the bar chords should be unusual, but just in terms of your left hand strength, which I know for me is a bit of an issue, that can be a little bit challenging. So we'll go through that slowly. So we're going to start off in the standard A minor chord, going to this A sus2 with sort of a 6 in there, very nebulous sounding chord, back to A minor, back to the A sus2. So that's sort of your intro before we go into the melodic section. So now we're going to go into that, up to that D chord up here, and now we're going to go to the B bar chord up on the 7th fret. same position. Now this is the tricky one. We're going to go to that F chord, which is basically your C chord, just with your partial bar on the 5th fret. Back down to your regular C chord down here. Ending on that D chord. Now for a little interstitial, we're going to go back to that A minor, to the A sus2. Out because we're not going to the regular F, we're going to go back up to this F. Then we're going to do the E7 up here, which is 7, 6, 7, open 7. Before going back down to this E. And then we're going to end on the A minor to A sus2. So yeah, not too crazy in terms of chords. Hopefully if you're intermediate or advanced, it should be pretty familiar. It's just sort of planning your bar chord structure. At least for me, that's sort of what I need to think about a little bit. It's like where exactly to put my tension so that I can fairly easily move between those bar chords, especially getting into that F, because that's that one's a little bit, it's not a chord I use a lot myself, so that one takes a little bit of thought and planning, but it's a good thing to practice because it definitely has some utility, so I highly recommend it. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this month's video. I hope that you enjoy these etudes and get some use out of them. If you have any questions or feedback or ideas for future content like this, please leave me a note in the comments or send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, please hit like on this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you'd like to get access to these videos a couple days early, you can join me over on Patreon, where I also release a bunch of extra bonus content, or you can now sign up for my YouTube channel membership and get these videos on Friday instead of Sunday. So not a huge difference, but a couple days early and you'll get, a little bit of extra bonus content here too. So if you want to sign up for that, I'd really appreciate your support. And as always, I'll see you later this month with some more music videos and next month with more content like this. So thanks again for watching.